Dave Hopla, thanks for coming in to see us and Off the Ball. I know you're here for your premiere with Scram Films, Mark Mulholland, the story about the famous shooting coach that came from Baltimore all the way over to Belfast. So that's premiering tomorrow night. Looking forward to it?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me, inviting me on your show.
No bother. Just look, you're probably famous for being the best shooter of a basketball in the world, but tell us where you came across the game first.
I grew up in a small town in New Jersey called Keyport, and I played, baseball, basketball, and football, and was probably average at best at everything. And then when I moved to Baltimore, moved into the city. So, as you know, basketball is known as the city game, and I joined the YMCA, and I spent countless hours there because I didn't have any friends, and basketball's a game you can really do things on your own. So I fell in love with that, and then I had a guy named Dana Cunningham. He played at Frostburg State. It was a Division III school, but to me, he was like my Michael Jordan. He showed me things to do, and he gave me a mimeographed copy of Pistol Pete's basketball homework, all the ball handling drills to do, and then I just fell in love with the game.
It's very important the role people play as coaches, especially with young kids. That first impression you make in a kid can have a big bearing on whether that kid likes the game, falls in love with the game. It's a big thing now. You see a lot of coaches on the sideline in underage games, even Gaelic football here in Ireland and basketball. You see them shouting instructions, taking it really seriously. We play a big role when you meet a kid for the first time.
Yes, we do, and sometimes you don't think you're getting through to them. And it's a funny story I was telling Mark on the way here. I was sitting at the airport in Newark yesterday, and a guy, he's a comedian now in the States, Don Zolo, and he goes, "Are you Dave Hopla?" He goes, "I was at the Wayne Embry camp when I was 16, and he took a picture with me, sent it to his buddies that they went, and he said that the lessons that I taught him, it's still instilled today. So it really made my day.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to get that feedback, and for you going from an American, college basketball is the goal of every kid playing. How was that experience for you? Where did you go?
Well, once again, I wasn't a great player at the time. I didn't have any offers when coming out of high school, so I went to a junior college, a 2-year school right in Baltimore. And after my second year there, I got a scholarship to go play out in Nebraska, a small school, an NAIA school in Chadron. And everyone knows the NCAA because of the tournament, but nobody knows like the NAIA. And I always joke around, it stands for no academic information available. So. But there's been some great players that have played in NAIA, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, but I just wanted to play, and from there I was fortunate. Before I came over here to Belfast, I went to South America because their winter season's the opposite.
Yes.
So I was just very fortunate to to continue playing.
And you landed in Shannon. What was your first experience?
I landed in Shannon with John Rush, JR. He's from Philadelphia, and he had a friend of his who married an Irish girl down in the Shannon airport, and he picked us up, and it was funny. She was like 9 months pregnant, and she's entertaining 2 Americans, and she's going to the grocery store, doing all this, and we're like, no, we can do that. In America, you're 9 months pregnant, you don't do anything, and she's like, no, stop fussing. So we stayed there for 2 days, and then we were going to meet John Kennedy and Leo McColgan in Dublin at some restaurant. So John's friend brings us over to a friend of his who's going to drive us up to Dublin, and we were in a coal truck, a coal lorry. They threw our bags in the back, and John and I are sitting up in this truck. Our bags are back with the coal, and I'm like, what in the world am I getting myself into? And then we met John, and he dropped us off, and we met John and Leo, and we ate, and they whisked us up to Ulster Poly for the first. We went right to the gym from there, and it's when. So
a drive in a coal truck was your first experience?
Yeah, that was it.
I see the guys now. We get them collected in nice cars, and they get driven down, ready, nice and into their own house and their own apartment. But it was a bit different in those days.
Yeah.
So your trip to Belfast would have been a kind of an experience in itself of what was to come. Tell us about that first week, because this is 1980s now in Belfast. This is serious time during the Troubles. You're a guy coming over from America. There's no Skype, there's no Instagram, there's no Twitter. must have been a real kind of eye-opener that first few days.
It was. I stayed with Mickey and Marie, and Dan Durkin was our coach, and Dan lived actually around the corner from Mickey and Marie, and so Marie was cooking dinner for us, and it was a Sunday, and so we were walking across. Dan wanted to talk, and we lived right across from the Ormo Bakery, and there's a Ormo Parks right across the street, and so Dan and I were going out. It was a beautiful day, sun was shining, and we're running across the street, and all of a sudden Dan went down. And I thought maybe, a sniper got him or something. I'm like looking around. He's laying down there. He's got his knees in pain. And he had landed on a curb and everything. So now I pick him up. He's got his arm around me. We limp back to Mickey Marie's, and he goes to the hospital, and he's laying there. And the next day, had surgery. And I said to him, got some good news and bad news for you, Coach. He said, what's the good news? I said, the operation was a success. He said, what about the bad news? I said, they operated on the wrong knee. But some of it was, I got used to it after a while, but it was very, nerve-wracking, like, walking down the street and you'd see like a British soldier with his gun pointed on you, and he just would like follow you and stuff. And it was just so many different. And
was there, like, when this guy is pointing the gun at you, what's going through your head? Are you thinking,
what's going on? Like, is he gonna, shoot me or what? But there were so many different, like, you had the British Army, you had the UDR, which was the Ulster Defence Regiment, and then you had the RUC. And you had different, people policing the areas and everything. It was just a little nerve-wracking, but it got used to it after a while, I have a feeling
a lot of Americans, and I play with two good guys, Keith Jumper and John Lawton. I feel if they came into the country right now and were landed into that scenario, they'd be on the first ship back out of there. But you're talking about Mickey Marie's, who I know well, who I've met with you in Belfast. Living with them making you dinner, looking after you like they did, gave you a real sense of, I suppose, family and community that was above in St. Gall's early on in your journey up there.
Yes, it was. They were fantastic. I can't say enough about them, the sacrifices that they made, but also everyone with St. Gall's. Everyone made sacrifices, making sure we got from A to B and looking after us. John Kennedy, Paul, Brendan, Rocky, all those guys, were part of, bringing us in and making us feel at home and feeling comfortable. Tim Robinson, Peter Craig, the whole St. Gall's family. And it's, it's like whenever I get back, it's like I've never left. We just have, we just...
They are family, really.
Yeah, it really is.
And that connection, will you say, when people are looking after you that much and then it comes to game night, what's the pressure on you like to kind of deliver back for them when you feel that they're doing all this for you to make you feel at home? Did you feel that pressure initially coming into the game, especially as a guy who was, a 6'3" white guy guard in a league where predominantly Paddy O'Connor had originally brought in the big black guys who were dunking, who were powerhouses? Yeah. Was there pressure on you to deliver from that side of things, almost to give back to the community up there?
Yeah, there was, because you want to do well, and I'll never forget our first game. I have such vivid memories. It was a great part of my life. And our first game, we played Neptune Burgerland, and John Rush had a bad game. He didn't play well at all. He had like 8 points, and I had a really good game and everything. So after the game, we go down to St. Gall's, which was right down the road on the Falls Road, to the club, and John Rush is heading over towards the car to get in, and John Kennedy says, "No, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything." And he got down on his knees and he was running his hands underneath the floorboard, under the car, looking underneath the tires. And JR's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, you didn't play well. The boys might have a bomb in the car there for you." And JR was like, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not getting in the car," and everything. He just, as smart as he was, the guy went to like Philadelphia Pharmacy, but he just didn't know that they were just joking
kind of joking, but not joking.
Yeah, right. He was like, I better play a little bit better. But
and so, like, you're coming over here as a professional player. the pressure on you, is it all win or lose for you, or what way did you feel like? How did your mindset on the game alter during your time in Ireland?
It altered big time. Being in America, it's, win or lose, you hated losing. Pat Riley once said, there's winning and there's misery. And that's the way I used to be. And I remember, we had lost a game down in Dublin. We lost to Jerome Westbrook's place. They had Eamon Malloy, who was a very good guard. Colester, I believe. Yeah, they were very good, and they beat us. And afterwards, we're going to meet with them at, some club, and everyone's in there, going to have some pints and everything. And I'm sitting out in the car, and I'm like just, pissed off, mad at the world. And finally, I said to myself, what am I doing here? And that's like I said, win or lose, we booze. You should play it as hard as you can. Go out and enjoy it afterwards. Leave it on the court. And I carried that attitude with me when I went home, in the NBA and stuff. After a loss or whatever, I came out and I had my wife and daughter there, and
it was all okay.
The game's it's there, it's over with.
I think it's something you get with experience.
Yes.
You see kids nowadays when they lose, they're crying if they're underage. It's really tough on them, but to try and explain it to them.
Right.
You lost an iconic teammate, Dave, on the floor above in Anderstown against Killarney. Tell us about that day.
Yeah, I was no longer with the team at that time when John had passed away, and I had heard, and I was just shocked because John was like the face. He was the face of, St. Gall's, and he was a big proponent of bringing the Americans over with. And, John and his wife Margaret, they had taken in John Rush our first year there. He stayed there, and I just, couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe, that happened to John. I mean, they're, who played for a number of, Irish teams and everything. And it was just, took the wind out of the sail for a little bit. And I mean, I just felt
tough bad on that community as well.
Yes, and especially for Paul, his brother. I mean, Paul was there when it happened and everything. But it was just like, we were just all shocked stateside. I know Boo Williams, who was a teammate of mine for 2 years, and Dan Durkin, we were just like all disbelief,
It was a real, them experiences all from start to finish in those 3 years, and then hearing that news when you were away. And from me meeting you a few years ago above the Belfast Classic, I get a real sense that, you love Ireland, but in particular you just love Belfast, and you love the people for what they did for you in those early days when you were kind of a young man.
Yes, and I think, a lot of it, I just say this, I think the Irish are the friendliest people in the world, and I used to joke, they just don't get along with one another, But,
well, when you were living above in Belfast in the 80s, I can see how that...
The thing was, if we were out, in a pub or whatever, and somebody would hear... oh, you're a Yank, you got to come home and meet the family. I mean, everybody was just so friendly, and oh, you got to come meet the family here. We have family there. Do you know them, and so forth. And it was just, and I don't know if it was because of the troubles that people went out of their way to make you feel even more at home. But I didn't have any. Like I always said, I felt safer in Belfast than I did in the streets of Baltimore.
Okay.
And I just love the people there, and I love all of Ireland. Whenever I have an opportunity to come over, I jump at it to come over,
Yeah, no, and you talk about jumping over here, the players that we had during your 3 years there. Some of the caliber of guys, NBA level guys, really.
There's some great players. I mean, Soup Campbell, who had just passed away as well. Matter of fact, I was up at Providence speaking at camp this summer, and took a picture. He's on the Hall of Fame up there and everything. And Mike Pyatt was down. You had Bob Stevens. You had Tony Andre.
He was.
And he was Tony.
I heard he was.
He
was a monster. He tried to be a monster in Belfast. I don't think there was too many people afraid of him. Nice haircut that time.
There wasn't. Yeah, with my skinhead, they thought I was an American skinhead, and used to have a little fan club of little skinheads wearing their camo pants and their Doc Martens and everything. And Tony blasted me one time, and me being an idiot tried to take a charge on him. He knocked me into the support, and the little guys are up screaming at him, "Oh, you're messing with our man Hops. We're going to get you, you block bastard. We're going to get you." And he's over there. "We'll see you after the game." And Rocky went over, and he goes, "Because these kids aren't scared of me." And Rocky goes, "They've been fighting the British Army since they were 2. They're not afraid of one guy." You know? So
you need a bit more than that, but no, there was unbelievable players over here, and it was a time in Irish basketball where it's referred to as the golden years, and you were in that famous, very good documentary that Kieran Shannon was involved in. Where did you go play after Ireland? Did you go anywhere and play after?
Yeah,
that?
I went to Wales, and when I went to Wales, I got the job as basketball developmental officer. I thought it would look good on my resume and everything, but Wales was tough. Trying to get it, because big rugby. I mean, rugby's so big, and I said that, in order for them to really get basketball going there, they needed to get Terry Holmes, who was like he was like the Michael Jordan of rugby.
Okay.
And he had played basketball for Cardiff Central at one point, and he said, he did a lot of the drills with basketballs, with the rugby ball, like the head circles, figure eights. And I said, that's who you need to, to get the game going over there, not some, American guy. You need to have a figurehead, a popular guy to do that. So, but it just never really took off from there. And then after that, I was with the Baltimore Lightning at the Continental Basketball Association, and Henry Bibby was our coach, and it was right in Baltimore, and he said, come play, you're a local guy. I said, what am I gonna get, 20 people in the crowd? That's a lot, they said, for a CBA game, and then the checks bounced more than the basketball, and then my coaching career began. Reluctantly, it began, because a guy called me, wanted me to coach, and I kept saying, I was like, 30-some years old, early 30s. I'm like, I'm a player. I'm not a coach.
You didn't want to give it up.
Didn't want to give it up, and he kept hounding me. And I said, look, I'll come in when I can. I don't want to commit to it. I said, I don't want any money. Just I'll come in when I can, and I've been coaching since.
You've been coaching since, and I know, obviously you can see by the top you've on Michael Jordan. You're a brand ambassador for the Jordan brand. One of my idols going up. Come Fly With Me, airtime.
Yeah, I read the book there.
He was my guy. I saw him once, and I kind of just touched his hand as he was getting onto the bus. He played golf in Tralee Golf Club one time.
You rode your bike.
Yeah, he was.
I read your book.
I cycled in. I cycled out there to meet the guy. So he was obviously an icon of mine. What's it like to meet him and be involved with him? And
I'll tell you.
What kind of an aura? You hear these iconic sports people. The Tiger Woods he's one of them.
Right. He's like he's like a god. I mean, people put him on a pedestal. And I did a tour. I did a Jordan tour, European tour with him, and I actually felt a little sorry for him. I said, that man lives in a golden prison.
Yeah.
He has everything, but he can't just go out and enjoy himself without having bodyguards, security, and everything. And we were in a restaurant in Berlin, and I was sitting with Rich Schubrooks, Marin Sedlacek, all of the coaches that we did the Jordan clinic for, and we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden these 3 big guys come in. We're like, that looks like Jordan's bodyguards, and sure enough they were. They had a case to join out, and all of a sudden they put Michael Jordan sitting in the corner by himself, and then his bodyguards. So I'm saying, there's Michael Jordan here in the restaurant. He's looking at the behinds of his 3 bodyguards. I mean, just by himself,
it's tough.
And I felt like it's really tough. But the same thing when we did the clinics and the camps. Michael would present the MVP trophy, but he had to watch the games in the back. He couldn't sit out on the court to watch them because it would take away from the kids. Everyone was, there's Michael Jordan, and they wouldn't watch kids. So he had to sit in the back, watch it on closed circuit TV, and then come out and make the award and, on to the next site. But
yeah, it's a side of it that we don't see.
Right,
you hear people giving out, he didn't take a picture here, he didn't sign an autograph here, but these guys are, as you say.
And it's tough too, if you sign one, you got 10,000 people, you can't sign them all, and it's a really difficult situation, especially nowadays with all the lunatics that are out there.
Yeah. it doesn't make it any easier, there's one thing for sure. But look, you've got in with him, you've worked with some great NBA players, Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, Jason Kidd, Carmelo Anthony, and the new superstar that's on the block, this kid Zion Williamson, who people in Ireland would know. Who did you enjoy working most with out of the great players? And I suppose, why did you enjoy working most?
Well, Kobe Bryant, I said it's a double-edged sword. It was a curse and it was a blessing. And the blessing in how hard he worked and how he paid attention to detail. And now, when he first came out, I didn't think he was ready for the NBA, and he struggled. He shot 4 air balls against Utah. But anyone that shoot 4 air balls would go into a shell. You'd never even hear it. Didn't even faze that kid. But when I worked him out, he was never late for a workout. He was always early, and he was like, show me, tell me, I want to be the greatest player ever. And whenever you spoke to him, he looked at you like I'm looking at you right in the eye. He didn't walk away saying, yeah, you right, coach, I got you. He paid attention. And after we worked our first workout out, we were working at Cal State Northridge, and I was with his agent, Orrin Tellum, and 2 of my friends, David and Dana Pump, who were big into AAU basketball back on the West Coast years ago. And Kobe's in the back seat, and he has a Street and Smith's basketball magazine, and it has all the rosters, all the players in the NBA. And now Kobe's just out of high school, and he's like, Atlanta. Oh, I'm better than him. 2 years from now, I'll kill this guy. Boom, he's slipping over to Boston. Had like a hit list, and I'm just saying, this kid's like really focused, and he knew what he wanted to do. And like I said, he was never late for a workout, and he paid attention to the slightest details, and he wanted to be the greatest player, and he worked his tail off to become one of the greatest. Yeah,
you even see the work he does now when he breaks plays down. You're talking about attention to detail is everything. His footwork was unbelievable for a guard. He was like Jordan. He could take people into the post.
Yeah, he worked down the post with Elijah Wan. He hired Elijah Wan and the thing is, like I said, I had a friend of mine, Alan Stein, who used to be the strength and conditioning coach at Montrose Christian and also at DeMatha, and he was working at Kobe Bryant Skills Academy camp, and they bring in like the top high school kids, and the college kids work as counselors. So he was there, and he said to Kobe, he says, do you mind if I watch you work out tomorrow? I'd like to watch you work out. And he says, sure. And he said, what time? He said, 4:30. And Alan Stein looked at the schedule. He goes, there's games at 4:30. Kobe said, that's 4:30 in the morning. So Alan went there, and he said he got there like 4:15. Kobe was already fully drenched in sweat, doing his ladder drills, his strength, his conditioning and stuff. And Alan said he sat down there with his notebook opened, ready to take notes. He said, for 45 minutes, I didn't take one note. He did absolutely nothing but the most basic fundamentals. Worked on 4 pivots, jab step, jab jump shot, jab crossover step. So, he said he watched it for 45 minutes. So later that day, he said at lunch, Kobe, the most basic thing, And Kobe said, why do you think I'm the player that I am? I don't get bored with the basics. And that's the thing, like nowadays, everybody wants to go to the James Harden, 5-step travel, step back. You can't even make a regular jump shot. You have to master the basics before you can do anything else. And, like people think, I say a funny story about Michael Jordan, when he was with the Bulls and everything, I said, what do you think the first thing Michael Jordan did after he came out of the weight room? He played catch. Threw 2-hand chest passes where he'd grab a coach or a teammate. Said, Michael, when did you learn to throw a chest pass? When I was 6. Well, why do you still haven't mastered it yet? People think, oh, he took off from the free throw line and jammed it or something. And that's the thing that kids don't see, because it's not, in this day and age, it's not sexy, it's not flashy. You got to show a guy doing something crazy. But those players were there because they mastered the fundamentals. I mean, Michael still scored 20 points a game when he was 40 years old. Yeah. And he wasn't Air Jordan anymore. No. But he could make a
50
jump shot.
When he was 42, right?
Yeah,
he was, and like Kobe was able to get 60 in his last game. And a lot of that was your jab steps.
Yeah, sure.
When you lose that athletic ability.
Sure, you can't get by people, so you got to learn to,
Speaking about athletic ability, Dave, Zion Williamson, you worked with him. How good can this kid be
unbelievable? I mean, that's the big thing, what you just hit there. If he can stay healthy, I mean, right now they're saying he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. He had a little tendinitis. I think they're doing a little scope on it or something. But to see someone that size, I mean, he's like 285. I mean, and to jump. And when I was out at Team USA basketball, he made a play. I forget who went in for a layup, but he pinned it on the board. And I mean, he didn't pin it with his hand. He pinned it with this area here, cupped it, and led the break down the other end and dunked it. And I'm just like, the guy that big can't move that fast.
I know.
And it's like you just can't believe your eyes. And he's got a great personality.
Yeah.
He's got the love of the game right now, and it's just a shame to see what happened. I watched the exhibition game of him the other day, and he was like 13 for 14 from the field.
Yeah,
and I mean, he still has, and if he develops a jump shot, I don't know what you'll do with him. But right now, I think teams are playing him wrong because he can't shoot. They're giving him 3 feet. You're giving that guy 3 feet to head start.
To head start, to get a power.
I'd rather jam him up.
Yeah.
And now, because now he gets a full head of steam. Nobody's getting in front of that guy.
No, and he can put back his own misses, which is the crazy thing.
He has great body control for that size, and like I said, even like if he's off balance because he's so strong, he still has a touch to tip it, like which you can't teach.
And he's starting to make a few trees, so your bit of work is starting to pay off. And he looks like he's got good form, and
he has good rotation and stuff. He get that elbow in. It's a little set shot, but I mean, he doesn't need to be jumping over people out there. And shooting something you can get better in. Guys late in their career became better shooters. I mean, look at we had Jason Kidd. When he first came in the league, he wasn't a good shooter. Now he's in the top 10 in threes made. But like he says, I just shot a lot of them. That's all that means.
I think I notice it now that when you start getting older, the jump shot's something that you really need to start focusing on. When you look like Kobe, like we talked about, when you lose athletic ability, you got to start getting the basics right. Who of all the guys did you get the most satisfaction out of helping? Who did you leave and go, I'm after making that guy a good shooter, and he couldn't shoot a lick before I met him?
The best example of that would be Brendan Haywood. When I was with the Wizards, he was a 51% foul shooter, and I say foul shooter. And he became a free throw shooter. A different foul means stinking, rotten, bad. I always said, when I was with the Pistons, I said, we had the best foul shooter in the NBA. They're like, who's that? I said, Andre Drummond. He's terrible. I said, he's the best foul shooter. He shot 37%. See, fouls, stinking, rotten, nasty, no good. I said, you want to be, and I actually called it a free shot, not a free throw. But so Brendan was 51%. So when I got hired there, I met him. I said, Brendan, you're going to shoot 75% this year. And Brendan went right off the bat. Well, I said, Brendan, you're already fighting with me. You should be like giving me a hug. You're going to be 75%. So I said, all I want you to do is listen to me and trust me and everything. And Brendan was 73.8% that year. And Brendan, he would do anything for me. My second year in Washington, he broke his wrist in preseason. But we had a routine we did, and Brendan's just worked his tail off, and he had a great year. And then he went out to Dallas, won a championship. Actually, 3 of our guys, him and Karan and Deshaun Stevenson, went out to Dallas, and they won a championship.
Yeah,
and Brendan gave me a gold ball with all the team's autographs from the championship.
That was a great championship team too. That team had Dirk, and it was they were a great team to follow.
They were fun to watch.
Yeah, and Jay Kidd and JJ Barea. They did a lovely veteran squad too.
They did.
They beat the Miami team to beat LeBron when he was going for his 5, 6, 7, and 8 and all that. Any other interesting characters during those times that stand out to you as wacky characters or
No, there's a lot of wacky ones. I mean, when I was with the Knicks, we had Meta World Peace, Ron Artest. And it's funny, I've known Ron before. I used to work him out when he was in high school and also at St. John's. So when we got him, I'm like, okay, who are you? Are you Ron, Meta World Peace, Meta?
What am I calling you today?
As a matter of fact, I just sent him a thing on LinkedIn because he started, he made an app. It's an air bed and breakfast for basketball. Like if you want to go play pickup ball in New York City, where to play, and then where to stay with one of the players. And I thought it was pretty cool. And so I just hit him back on that. And then when he went to China, he was like Friend of Panda. So he's got like 10 different names. So I'm like, I don't know what to call him anymore. But he's an interesting guy. And you know, then I had Nick Young, Swaggy P, his first 2 years in the league with Washington. We had Gilbert Arenas there, who's you know, and it's a shame injuries took away him, because he was one of the people have no idea. I mean, I tell kids, you want to see how good he was, Google him when he had 60 against Lakers. He had like a hit list because he didn't make the Olympic team that year, and he like went out and he was like killing people, man. But you know, injuries you know, took him too soon from us. You know, he had bad knee and stuff. But there's been a few. I'm trying to think some other lately, the most recent and interesting. We had Rasheed Wallace, you know, when I was in the Knicks. And you know what? As crazy as I thought Rasheed was, when, you know, like I hadn't any experience with him, you just saw how, like, you know, temperamental and how crazy he was. He's the best teammate you ever had.
I would say I've heard those Pistons guys say that they would die for him as well. It was
unbelievable. He was big on talking. If you didn't talk, and he had a stress fracture when I was with the Knicks, so his. You know, he was spending more time rehabbing than he was on the floor. Yeah. Plus, he knew everything. He's been in the league for 13 years. There's nothing that some teams come up with new offense. And we would be there on the floor, and we would all of a sudden say, Rasheed just walked in, because all of a sudden our practice got louder. The guys were talking more defensively, because he would call you right out if you didn't talk.
It's something that's an epidemic, I think, in underage people, whether it's the phones or whatever.
Right.
But
no,
communication levels.
I think that's a huge thing. I'll text you about that screen. You know, you get that after the game. I was open for a shot. You know, you got to talk all the time.
So important in all team sports, communication and defense. And
we tell all our players, when you make a call, you know, you make it early, loudly, repeatedly. You know, and like a lot of times guys say, you know, pick right, you know, and call it out loud. Yeah. You know, you're right. I got yours. You know, you have to be that way.
And I feel that talking as well, and
it brings you together.
It brings you together as a team, but it also puts off the opposition. I played football against teams with better communication than our team, and you know, we'll say Tyrone team, not far from. Right. Tyrone would have been a team that used communication very much, used verbal stuff on the defensive end, but they were non-stop talking to each other, keeping each other tuned in, and it was...
They, you know, analytics guys, they have analytics on everything in the NBA, and they actually have touches.
Yes.
Steve Nash is like the #1 guy in touches. Hey, great job. Yeah. Great job. And the San Antonio Spurs were big on touches. Yes. And they have stats about the teams. There's real good teams have the touches, pointing out the community. Hey, great pass, great screen. You know, all of that stuff. Yeah. So and that's important. You know, I mean, you know, everyone looks at, like, you know, the guy that made the basket, but who delivered them the ball? Did the guy set the screen? You know, was the pass? And they're the things that, you know, you have to recognize, and you have to let people know that
there's a lot more goes into it than the finished product. Carmelo, talk to me about him. There's rumors out there he's a toxic teammate and whatever, but should a team sign him right now? Is he done?
Unfortunately, I think he's done in the NBA. Can he still play in the NBA? Yes. Okay. I mean, that guy's a walking bucket, man. Yeah. And he's a great guy. You know, I knew Carmelo when he was in high school, because he was from Baltimore originally, before he went to Oak Hill to play, and was with him. He led the league in scoring, and you know, he was like third in MVP voting that year. We won 54 games.
What was he like in the dressing room?
He was unbelievable. He was the nicest guy. I mean, I never saw him, you know, down or anything. And as a matter of fact, my aunt, she got the NBA package because she wanted to always, like, you know, see what color suit I was wearing and everything, you know. And then she's like, don't wear brown, wear blue. And then she goes, can you do me a favor? I said, what's that? She goes, can you give me Carmelo's autograph? I said, why is that? She goes, he's the only guy that smiles. Everyone else has like a bad look. So I said, hey, Carmelo, I hate to bother you, you know, because those guys sign 1 million autographs. Yeah. I said, can I get an autograph picture from my aunt? And so he yells out, Martinez! And he's the equipment manager. Martinez comes running. He goes, what's up? He goes, go get me a game jersey. And Martinez gets it. So he goes, what's your aunt's name? And he writes to Jean, Carmelo Anthony. So I send a jersey to my aunt. Now, my aunt lives in Baltimore, where Melo's from. And Baltimore's like one of the murder capitals of the world, right? So she goes, that's really nice of Carmelo, but the jersey's awful big. She goes, I was going to wear it to the supermarket. Melo's like, no, that's all I need. You know, grandmother shot and killed in my jersey. So he sent her a picture as well. I had it framed for her, but she was going to wear it out.
Oh, my God. Did it be slung off her double time?
But he was a great guy, and I just, feel really bad for him. I thought he got a raw deal in Houston. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just what didn't work. But like I said, he can score. You know, and everyone talking about.
Does someone take a punt on him? Does someone going for a championship right now? When all these teams have got two great players.
I would. I mean, I think that's what might happen. I mean, I thought Brooklyn was going to get him after what's his name, Chandler, tested positive for 25 games, and I mean, why not? I mean, why not Melo? I mean, but I think down the stretch, somebody might take a gamble.
On him.
And like people say, oh, his defense. But who's a great defender in the NBA anymore? I mean, you
only really played defense in the playoffs, really, from what I see.
And I mean, like you look at the Clippers. I mean, this year, they have three good perimeter defenders. I mean, they got Patrick Beverly,
who I love,
Kawhi, and then Paul George. I mean, and then after that, like trying to name perimeter defenders, you got Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
It's hard to name,
guys that love to play defense.
Yeah, but I mean...
KG did it, they're rare now, the guys that actually cap the floor and say, let's go.
Take pride in it,
Yeah.
And it's, years ago, guys would take it personally if you scored on them, like now, and now everyone's, just switch. Back when I played, switching was that was like the easy way out. That's a sign of weakness. Help! Another one. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit more of that going into it now. I just want to go through some of the numbers, Dave, for our listeners. Mm-hmm. You're a shooting coach. In the summer of 2007, you attended 31 camps. You shot 99.19%.
Mm-hmm.
You made 11,093 shots out of 11,183. That's 90 misses, Dave, in over 11,000 shots. Yeah. Do you take that in when you are you please tell me you can appreciate that and you're not thinking about those 90 misses.
I appreciate it very much, because at times, the mind is a very powerful thing. For years, I was always at 98.6. I was body temperature, and I was like, I can do this, and the thing is, I always say, each shot's its own shot, and the only shot you have control over is the one you're about to take. You can't worry about what you did, what you're thinking of the next shot. You got to focus on one shot. So if you can focus on one shot at a time, you just have to do it 1,000 times in a row, whatever. But it's just like anything else. And once you break, with Bannister with the 4-minute mile, nobody's going to do it. Once he did it, then 8 other people did it.
Yeah.
Because we put all of these restrictions or mental blocks on what can be done. And I remember reading an article years ago. Alexander Alexeyev was a Russian power lifter. He was the strongest man in the world.
Okay.
He used to had the bar was bending, and he used to do all clean and jerk and the press. And his trainer said, I know he can lift more than that. He goes, he's got a mental block that this is all he can lift. So his trainer went in and he changed the numbers on the plates. He put 100 extra pounds on there.
Yeah.
But Alexander Alexeyev went in there, looked at the numbers, added them up, boom, did it, and dropped it. He says, you know what you just did? And he's like, no. He goes, no, that's what I always do. And he said, no, he weighed him for him. And once that happened, then he went up even more and more. So, the mind is strong. It's a very strong thing. And I'm actually reading a book right now, Jay Billis's book called Toughness. And he's talking about toughness, is more mental than it is physical. You know, he says, you know, there's guys that lift 300 pounds, but they're not tough.
Yeah.
You know, mental toughness is like, hey, come on, you got a little bit more in you. Come on, gut this out, and like not quitting. You know, not having a negative attitude when things aren't going your way.
Yeah.
You know,
you're going to turn on somebody.
Yeah, right. You know, you come on. We can get this.
Yeah,
come
let's
on.
go.
Okay, let's finish. Let's play the last 10 minutes the right way. So let's cut that 30 to 15.
Yeah.
Come on. That's instead of packing it in, right?
Yeah.
Just like, okay, you know, not caring.
Yeah, you know, if you got a team now, I'd sit at the top of a mountain and make them run up, and I'd take off the guys who check out, because they're the guys I think who are possibly going to check out when the going gets tough, because that's what it is, that in test. You shot 281 three-pointers. You made 260. That's 92.52%. On 3 occasions, you were perfect from the field during one of these shooting clinics you do. On June 25th in Maryland, you shot 263 for 263. At the CT starters camp, you went 339 for 339, 20 from the three-point line. And in August at UCLA, the famous college, you went 272 from 272. I was at one of these clinics. You did one in Tralee first 3 years ago. The kids were mesmerised. There was over 400 people there. You chase that perfection, but the way you do it and the way you teach them, and we've a lot of people that'll be listening today that might play football who take free kicks for their team, or you have a golfer who wants to putt better. How do you, like, obviously the simple answer is practice, but you've a method that you talk to the kids in Tralee that day about keeping track, and keep setting targets, that there's no kick wasted, there's no shot wasted. Talk to us a little about that.
Like I always say, you can't improve on something you don't measure. Like I always say to like a kid, I worked out today. Okay, what did you do? Well, I dribbled and I shot. How many shots did you take? I don't know. How'd you shoot? Shot good. How do you know you shot good? Maybe your good's really bad, but you think it's good because you're not keeping track of it. And I started keeping track of my shots when I was 16. I was at a basketball camp, and a coach said to me, you know, if you're serious about improving, you need to have a practice plan, just like a coach does, and you need to keep track of your shots. Because how else do you know if you're getting better? So I thought I was the only kid in the world not keeping track of my shots. So I started, and you know, I have my notebooks. I still carry. I'm still old school. I call it right school, not old school. And you know, I still, like when I lecture, I have my lecture book, and I have my other book, my practice book, and I'm still big on that. And nowadays, like especially with basketball, there's all these apps called Home Court where it videotapes your whole workout. And it shows you what your arc is on a shot, where you shot from. It's like amazing, and I don't know why, you know, every kid wouldn't even get that. And at camps this summer, I said, how many of you have heard of Home Court? And the kids will raise, how many of you have it? And how often do you use it? I use it once or twice a week. It's not going to do you any good if you don't. Every day you want to get feedback. And I'll tell you, when I was living in Chicago, first got married to my wife, I was working out Luol Deng at the Chicago Bulls.
He just retired?
Yes. I saw they had a big thing, you know, over in London, England, because very decorated player, and he was just a wonderful human being. And so when I work guys out individually, I chart everything they do. So, you know, we like if you shot, you know, 25 corner jumpers, I have what you shot, you made 18, and you know what you did. So I want you to see where your weaknesses are, and everything. So I had that, and like, you know, Luol was like every day he'd be calling me like, hey, what did I shoot? What's my percentage? And I'm like, Luol, I went to junior college, man. I got to get home with the calculator. I can't like get this stuff. But he'd be like, well, as soon as you get home, you know, you get that, you want that, and then like, you know, and he'd be like, you know, and hey, I got to get better on, you know, off the bounce going to the left, man. I'm not as good as I am to the right, you know, and it's important to him. And I've done that like with all of it's, you know, when you get to like the NBA level, you know, those guys have had so much done for them. So when I get with a team, I'd get the interns, we get a notebook, and I'd get a picture of the guy, action photo, and I'd put it on the front of the notebook. And then whenever I did individual work, I would have what my workout consisted of, and what you shot
in specific
So that
areas.
justifies what I'm doing, and like, you know, we have synergy. Like, okay, when you go left, you pull up for a jump shot 90% of the time. You know, you don't go. So we'll work more on finishing to the left instead of pulling up jump shots. But just by having it, and guys like Toronto Raptors, it's like they're like, wow, that's like pretty cool. It's like being on the cover of EA Sports or something. But I have that for every guy, and I naturally can't keep track if I'm working 3 guys out, but individually. Always had them, and I'd give it to them at the end of the year, and like guys are like, man, that's like just a little something extra for them. You know?
Yeah, and so like keeping track is key.
It's huge.
You know, so if there's like a young kid or someone listening, you don't even have to be young. You can be You can be my age and say, I want to get better next year for my team. How do I get better?
Yeah.
I'm going to go kicking more. Right. Does it entice you down more when you start keeping track of everything? Does it make you, geez, I haven't done my shooting in 2 days. Now I know you shoot every day.
Not every day.
Well, most days.
Most days. But
if you're 98%, you're shooting most days. But does that kind of spur you on? Do these notebooks spur you on to kind of keep practicing and keep tracking and seeing that improvement? Does it get addictive?
It is addictive. Like you know, once I see myself getting better, then I want to practice more, and you know, it leads to confidence. Confidence equals success. Ongoing cycle. But when I see myself getting better, you even want to improve more. And at my stage, like I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice if I, like, you know, take 3 or 4 days off, you know. And, you know, to myself, I have a routine now. One of the reasons why I moved to Florida, I have access to a gym 24/7. My buddy has a gym in his house. It's like an NBA practice facility.
Okay.
So my day is I get up early in the morning, I take my daughter to school, and he lives about 5 minutes away from school. I go there, I do my form shooting, and then I get on the gun.
Form shooting, talk to us about form.
Form shooting, I start with one-hand form shooting, you know, make sure my hand's in the center of the basketball. I want to read the ball, and then I want to make sure the ball's out of the palm of my hand. I want to have daylight in here, 2 fingers. I'm in the letter L, wrist wrinkles, and I bend and extend. On my follow-through, I want my elbow to be above my eyebrow.
Okay.
And I pretend I'm putting my hand in the hoop, and the last thing I want to do is freeze my follow-through. The follow-through gives you finish. You don't want to be twist and turn. You want it to be straight. So I'll do that, then I'll add my other hand. Now, a lot of people call this a guide hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't guide the ball in the hoop. If it guided the ball in the hoop, we'd never have to practice, and we'd make every shot.
Okay.
The way most kids shoot, I tell them you should call it a misguide hand because it doesn't go in.
You can call it my misguide hand too, I think.
So I call it my balance hand because its job is to balance the ball, and I want to place that on the side of the ball. So once again, that palm shouldn't be touching the ball. I want daylight on each. So that would be on the side. So now I can see my target in between. I call this my shooter's window.
Okay.
If the balance hand's in front of the ball, hey, I got a hand in my face. Yep, and there's no defense. That's a problem. You don't want on top of the ball because now we got to move.
Yes.
So if we can eliminate motion, we increase accuracy. And like when I have my overnight camp, we break it down even more. I call it one hand, one eye shooting. So I want to cover this eye up because if my elbow starts to stick out, what do I see right now? I see the ball.
Yeah.
When can I see the hoop? When my elbow's directly above my lead foot. So we make sure everything. And then when I add my balance hand, now I close my shooting eye.
Okay.
So if this hand's in front, I can't see the hoop. When can I see my target? When it's on the side.
Okay.
So now I know my hand positioning's correct, as well as being a 2-eyed shooter.
Okay.
You know,
that's important.
It's really important.
And we talked about it early on. When I was 12 years of age, I was up at the side of the Tigers team at the time who were playing National League, and I used to watch every session.
Right.
And obviously, you know, nothing more annoying when you're coaching than a kid bouncing the ball. So I'd be patient enough to hold the ball. And as soon as they'd finish talking, they'd start playing, I'd start shooting. But I used to shoot with my hand out to the side all the time, and because I was small, so I was looking for power. And a guy called Shawnee Burrows, whose grandson comes to my camp, who will be at camp next week.
Great. Look forward to that.
He came over and he was like, you got to straighten up your elbow, you know, and it was like, I was like, okay. So you know that first shot with that elbow in, didn't even touch the ring, and I was like, okay. And you know, he says, you're going to have to be patient with this. It's not going to work straight away, but you know, keep practicing it out the back. And you know, we're talking about kids practicing and the amount of distractions that they have these days. why I feel that, you know, when we're talking to kids at a young age, you got to sell it to them, and you got to sell them the benefits of that routine, and why they're going to be better. And you know, I always took from that clinic you did in Tralee 3 years ago to people to like track your, like mark down your shots. It's so important that when you're talking to a kid early on in his development, that, you know, the message is positive, and that you're hoping that you can kind of inspire the kid to go work on it, because Shawnee Burrows took 5 minutes out of his night that time as an assistant coach for the team.
Made an impact.
And I went away and I worked on that. And 3 years later, I was captain of an Irish team, and I was a good 3-point shooter. And it's that, you know, the way that sometimes you don't know the effect you're having. But no, when I went home from work, when I came home from school those days, Coronation Street was on the TV. My mom was, you know, sitting and watching, or my dad was watching something, you know, with 2 channels. I didn't have a phone. So where did I go? I went out the back. If it was cold and it was wet, I put gloves on.
I hear you.
So I know this must be something that you struggle with right now, is how much, you know. And there's pros and cons to the phone. The pros are the kids are getting to see NBA up close. I had to get a tape sent from America that we could change in the video store, and it took like 3 weeks to get the tape back, and then you could watch the game. So there is advantages and disadvantages, but how do we get these kids to off the phones and into the lab, whether it's a football player that wants to be better, whether it's getting them out kicking, you know, if you're a parent or you're a coach, you don't want to be harping at them. What do you find the best way? Or
well, the kids that, you know, want to get better, they're going to, you know, dedicate themselves to the game, and you know, they're going to do what it takes to become, you know, better. And as a matter of fact, Michigan State basketball team, they're ranked #1 preseason in a couple of the polls, and the guys on the team, they vowed to get off social media till after April 5th, when they cut the nets down, is what they said. So they're like, I don't think it's Twitter or Instagram, but they're getting off one of them because they just said it's too much. And you can spend all your time. I mean, like, people say it all the time to me, oh, you know, I sent you this, I sent you that, and all this. I'm like, I don't check that stuff every single day, man. You might hit me Messenger. You might not hear from me for a week. I barely can get my emails. But it's hard to do because, like, kids are so worried about what you think of me, and that's one of the big things. I says, you can't worry, you know, not everyone's going to like you. You can't worry about that, and they spend too much time. You sent a negative tweet. Oh, I'm going to tweet back to you and tell you you're no good now, and they come in Twitter, and the pros do it. Kevin Durant gets worked up with some kid in Iowa tweet. A 16-year-old kid tweeted about him. He's gonna respond to that? I mean, you know, just get rid of the negative stuff. And J.J. Redick, he said he got fed up with it too. It's become too much, and to get the thing, like I said, with the kids out in the streets, like when I was a kid, go to your room was punishment. Now, like, go outside and play is punishment. It's completely flipped, and it's just become a large part. But the great ones still will put the time in, and like at the gym that I said I work out down in Florida, I have a sign that says, check your ego and cell phone at the door. You can go check that when we're done. You can't give me 2 hours of your day to work out, and you know, without checking that. Nothing's that important. You know? So
we might bring that into camping next week when we're down. The kids in Tralee, man, we're looking forward to having you down there, and good luck tomorrow night with the premiere. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Me too, and I really appreciate you bringing me in. I'm looking forward to coming down to Tralee and spending time with you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks a million.
My pleasure.